Hello and welcome to Hopeful Moments 1. Today, we will dive into a story about the disillusionment that can come after getting engaged, when one partner realizes that their significant other has changed and is exhibiting concerning behaviors. This story raises the question, should the main character continue this relationship or not? Today's story will take you through a situation filled with unexpected twists, where change happens too quickly and intensely, leaving the main character in shock. He can hardly believe that, in just a month, the person he loved has turned into someone completely different, making him question whether she was always like this but hid it, or if she was truly influenced by her friends and societal pressures after getting engaged. If you find this story interesting and filled with meaningful lessons, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to hear more valuable lessons. I, Nam, 32 years old, just proposed to my girlfriend Sharon, 30 years old. After 2 years of dating, a long enough time for me to believe we truly understood each other. I had spent a lot of time thinking and preparing for this important moment because I believed Sharon was the woman I wanted to spend my life with. When she said yes and wore the ring, I thought it was a wonderful turning point in our relationship, a mark of commitment and a happy future ahead. However, what surprised me the most was that immediately after the ring was on her finger, her attitude and behavior seemed to change drastically. It wasn't a slow or subtle change, but more like a complete reversal, as if I had proposed to one person, but now I was facing someone else. Throughout our 2 years of dating, I always felt we were very compatible. Not only did we get along well in daily life, but we also shared many important life views. We had discussed moral values, loyalty, and how a healthy relationship should function. At least, that's what I believed, that we shared a strong foundation of beliefs. But after the engagement, I started to feel that everything I thought about her and our relationship might have been an illusion. A sense of unease gradually emerged in me because I couldn't understand why an event that was supposed to bring us closer seemed to be pushing me further away from her. I tried to reason with this change. Could it be the pressure of getting married? Or had she always been like this, just hiding it until she was sure I was a safe choice? I didn't want to think negatively about the woman I loved, but the reality unfolding before me was hard to ignore. 7 weeks ago, I proposed to Sharon, and she accepted, which made me believe we had reached an important step in our relationship. That was the moment I thought was the happiest for both of us, as we looked toward the future and committed to building a life together. I felt a deep connection and thought we had overcome challenges and were ready for what was to come. But just under a week later, something unexpected happened. Sharon's attitude completely changed. I couldn't help but wonder if I had trusted this relationship too much, or if there was something I had overlooked. Everything felt like a shock to me because in such a short time, I felt that Sharon was no longer the person I had known. One day, when I came home, I was surprised to see a group of 6 women I had never met before. They were Sharon's friends, but I couldn't understand why I was only being introduced to them now. Sharon introduced each of them to me, and I could only awkwardly smile and greet them, but in my mind, I couldn't stop asking why I had never met them until now. This only confused me more, since I had met Sharon's 2 close friends, Michelle and Octavia, more than a year and a half ago, but now there was a whole new group of friends I had no idea about. I couldn't keep quiet and had to ask Sharon about this. She replied that she wanted to make sure our relationship was solid, that we were certain before she introduced me to her close circle of friends. I didn't understand why it had to wait until now, and her reasoning made me more suspicious. Was she putting me in a position I couldn't get out of? Could the change in her attitude be a sign of something bigger, a difference in how we viewed the relationship? Sharon's response seemed to only strengthen my doubts, because if our relationship was truly solid, why did it need pauses and unexplained challenges like this? I couldn't help but feel that this was very strange. The whole group of 6 unfamiliar women not only made me confused about why I had never been introduced to them before, but their appearance also came on a weekday, a time when I usually hope to relax and have my personal space. I didn't expect a quiet evening with Sharon, but their sudden appearance completely disrupted what I considered my daily routine, and it was an uncomfortable feeling. What frustrated me even more was how they practically emptied my wine cabinet. Sharon must have drunk more than half of it, but that wasn't the only issue. What really bothered me was the lack of respect for my personal space. I had prepared the wine cabinet for special occasions, but that night it felt like an invasion of my privacy without any invitation or prior discussion. Although Sharon had her own apartment, she frequently stayed over at mine to the point where it felt like we were living together. Normally, I wouldn't mind. I loved her and was happy to share my living space. However, her and her friends showing up without notice, especially leaving 4 empty bottles of rose behind, a complete waste, made me feel like I was just a servant to people I had never met, and none of them seemed to show any respect or care for me. When I tried to talk to Sharon about having guests without notice on weekdays, I thought she would understand my discomfort and at least have a serious conversation. However, Sharon's reaction only disappointed me further. She brushed it off carelessly, not caring about my feelings and simply dismissing it as an issue not worth discussing. I couldn't help but wonder if I was overreacting, but the feeling of being ignored and disrespected made me begin to question the true harmony in our relationship. Her actions made it seem like she no longer considered me important in her life. The following weeks did not get any better. Sharon started going out frequently with her girlfriend group, and every time she brought them back to my house, I felt like I was being pushed into a more and more uncomfortable situation. I'm not the type to meddle too much in others' lives, but when they began showing up without prior notice, twice completely unexpectedly, I started feeling like I no longer had control over my own living space. My discomfort grew even more as she kept bringing them to my house without letting me know beforehand. One time she did give me a heads up, but the reason she gave made me even more frustrated. Sharon said she was doing it to accommodate me, in her words. It was hard for me not to feel like this was just an excuse for her to do whatever she wanted, and I had no right to object. That statement seemed to show that she didn't truly care about my feelings. In fact, it made me feel like I was being forced to accept something without any discussion or proper respect. What really annoyed me was the way Sharon's friends treated me. They came to my house, not just to hang out or relax, but to act as if I were their butler, someone whose sole duty was to serve them without any respect for me. Every time they finished a glass of wine, they'd hold up the empty glass toward me, demanding I refill it. Honestly, I couldn't believe I was being treated like this in my own home, where I had always tried to create a comfortable and peaceful space. It felt like I was just a servant in my own house, not Sharon's boyfriend or a loved one. My feelings were getting increasingly tense. I wasn't sure if I was being overly sensitive, but the repetition of these behaviors made it impossible to overlook. During these gatherings, it wasn't just the lack of respect from Sharon's friends, but Sharon also didn't seem to protect or defend me. She seemed unaware that I was being placed in an unfair situation. Every time I brought up my discomfort, Sharon would dismiss it as a minor issue, making me feel like I was no longer valued in this relationship. After the 4th time Sharon's friends showed up without notice, I felt I couldn't stay silent any longer, so I made it clear that I was going to buy a locked wine cabinet. This was the only way I could ensure I wouldn't have to endure these situations anymore. Honestly, I didn't want to be the bad guy, but I felt like the respect in this relationship was slowly being eroded. For me, it wasn't just about the wine cabinet being drained, but about how I was being ignored and disrespected in my own home. Sharon's response really shocked and disappointed me. She didn't show any understanding of how I felt and simply called me boring. Those words felt like mockery, devaluing my emotions and seriousness about the issue. I didn't think asking for a little respect in my living space was too much to ask for. However, she didn't seem to empathize or understand that this was really important to me. But it didn't stop there. Sharon decided that my impression of her and her girlfriend group was wrong, and we all needed a chance to officially get to know each other. She arranged a dinner where everyone would meet and hopefully clear up the tensions between us. Even though I wasn't particularly excited about this idea, I agreed to join because I thought this was an opportunity for us to resolve misunderstandings and improve the situation. However, the result was nothing like what I had hoped. That dinner was truly uncomfortable. Sharon's 6 friends continuously asked about my life, my house, and my career, as if I were an object to be interrogated. Every question wasn't constructive and only made me feel like I was being scrutinized, like I had to explain every aspect of my life. But what really disappointed me was that whenever I tried to ask them questions to learn more about them, they would dodge them and refuse to answer. It felt like I was just a means for them to discuss my life, while they didn't want to share anything about themselves. The feeling was stifling and suffocating. I felt like I was stuck in a one-sided conversation, where I had to face endless questions without receiving any respect or sharing in return. Sharon, throughout the dinner, didn't intervene or defend me when I felt disrespected. This just made me feel like this relationship was losing the empathy and basic respect that I had expected. Things started getting worse when the conversation shifted to a topic I couldn't have anticipated: modern relationships and jealousy. This was a topic Sharon and I had discussed a lot during our time together, and I thought we had the same views and beliefs about these issues. But when Sharon's friends started expressing opinions about polyamory and staying in touch with exes, I felt like I was in a completely unfamiliar situation. One of them brought up views on polyamory and maintaining contact with exes, views I thought Sharon and I had both agreed on long ago. She had always strongly opposed staying in touch with exes and had always supported loyalty in relationships. We had discussed these matters, and I thought we had a solid understanding when it came to setting boundaries and principles in our relationship. I trusted that Sharon also felt the same way about protecting love and loyalty in our relationship. However, when Sharon reacted completely differently than I expected, I was truly shocked. She said that we shouldn't be too quick to make decisions on these matters. That statement left me speechless because just a month ago, Sharon had been very firm in opposing staying in touch with exes and always emphasized that she only supported monogamous relationships. It was honestly hard for me to understand why she had changed her views so quickly. This not only confused me but also made me begin to doubt the stability of our relationship. Did I truly understand her, and did we actually share the important values that I thought we did? The surprise and contradiction between what Sharon had said before and what she was showing now made me feel extremely awkward. I couldn't help but wonder if she was changing her views just because of her friend's influence, or if there was a deeper reason I didn't know about. The situation reached its worst when we faced an unimaginable scenario. After the dinner ended, the bill came, and Sharon announced that we would split it evenly. This completely shocked me and made me extremely upset. Not only did she push the bill toward me, but she also didn't offer any explanation or show any respect for my feelings. Even though we were in a relationship, the fact that she openly asked to split the bill made me feel like I wasn't an important part of this relationship, but just a simple boyfriend in a very unfair situation. I immediately reacted, telling her that she couldn't be serious if she thought I would share this financial burden unfairly. I'm not someone who demands much, but I felt this was a clear sign that Sharon no longer respected me or our relationship. We argued, and I couldn't help but feel that this was a concerning shift in how she viewed our relationship. In the end, I didn't want to continue that tense conversation, so I put down my share of the money and left, leaving them to handle the rest of the bill. I couldn't tolerate that disrespect any longer, and facing a situation where Sharon didn't care about my feelings was a huge shock to me. The following days didn't improve at all. Sharon started calling me toxic and weak, and every time I responded, she would apologize and justify it by saying she was stressed out from work. This just made me even more confused. Did she really realize she was hurting me? Or was she trying to blame the circumstances instead of facing her actions? It felt like I was being unfairly blamed while I was just trying to maintain respect and fairness in our relationship. The apologies after every conflict weren't enough for me to feel that she truly recognized the problem and wanted to change. Things seemed to continue escalating. On Monday this week, while I was busy with work, I received a notification from the Nest doorbell. When I checked, I was shocked to see Sharon and one of her 6 friends coming into my house and leaving with my golf clubs. These weren't just any golf clubs, but a gift from my father, with both material and sentimental value to me. At that moment, I felt like the boundaries of respect in this relationship had been severely violated. Sharon didn't just take the clubs without asking but also borrowed them without my consent. These golf clubs weren't something I could easily overlook, they held special meaning, and her doing this without even consulting me made me incredibly angry. It felt like I was being disregarded and not respected in my own living space. This was the first time I truly felt the disrespect and lack of consideration in our relationship to this extent. I immediately called Sharon and demanded that she and her friend return the clubs right away. I couldn't tolerate this disrespect any longer, and I needed to make her understand that not everything could be borrowed without consent. The feeling of being disregarded came not only from Sharon's actions but also from her attitude of not asking and not respecting my property. Sharon seemed to be deliberately deflecting and trying to cover up her actions. She tried to explain, saying, "But you promised to lend them to her boyfriend, don't you remember?" This not only confused me but also deeply disappointed me because Sharon was trying to justify her wrongful action with words. Even though she said this, I was sure I had never agreed to lend the clubs, and I couldn't let this go easily. I made it clear that these clubs held great value, and if they didn't return them, it could be considered theft. I emphasized that they had 1 hour to return them, or I would have to call the police. This wasn't me overreacting, but because I felt Sharon's actions had violated my privacy and respect in our relationship. The way she didn't respect my feelings and my property was enough for me to take strict measures. When Sharon continued insisting that I had agreed, I wasn't convinced. My trust in her had been damaged too much, and I couldn't accept being lied to like this. Less than 45 minutes later, I received another notification from the doorbell, and when I checked, I saw that Sharon and her friend had returned the golf clubs. However, this wasn't the end of it. As they were leaving, Sharon's friend even raised the middle finger at my camera before turning away. This was an extremely disrespectful act, and I felt humiliated not just by taking my things without permission but also by the rude and provocative attitude afterward. This situation not only made me angry but also made me feel very sad. Sharon not only violated my trust, but she also made me feel like I no longer mattered in this relationship. Actions like this not only diminished the respect in the relationship but also made me rethink everything about it. When I got home, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the golf clubs discarded on the living room floor. These were a special gift from my father, and seeing them treated like this made me feel humiliated again. It wasn't just about my belongings being treated carelessly but also how Sharon showed no respect for my feelings and my property. It felt like she didn't value our relationship and treated me like I wasn't important. Sharon continued trying to blame me, calling me toxic, and always justifying her actions. However, this time I couldn't tolerate it anymore and demanded that she stop those meaningless words. I was so tired of her excuses and irresponsible justifications. It felt like everything I had done and felt throughout this relationship wasn't being treated properly. I told Sharon directly that if I had known she would change like this, I would never have proposed. This wasn't just a statement of disappointment, but also a warning to Sharon about the changes in her behavior. I felt like everything had changed too quickly, and there was no way for me to continue this relationship without feeling used and disrespected. Feeling panicked, Sharon began justifying that she was just stressed out from work, and that was the reason for her behavior. But this time, I didn't believe her explanation anymore. My feelings for her had been hurt too much, and those hollow justifications no longer convinced me. What I felt at that moment was utter disappointment, as every effort in this relationship had not been properly valued. When things had become too serious and irreparable, I asked Sharon to return the ring and the house keys. I told her that we would discuss our relationship over the weekend, when things might have calmed down, and I had time to think carefully. However, she didn't accept this easily. Sharon cried and begged me not to cancel the engagement. Her pleas kept coming through messages, apologizing and saying she only wanted to show me off to her close friends, hoping I would understand and forgive her. Even so, Sharon's explanations and apologies couldn't change anything for me. I felt like all of this was just an excuse for her actions, with no real change in her thoughts or attitude. I no longer trusted her words. Her actions had broken the trust one had given her all this time. Later, Sharon's close friends kept messaging me every day, calling me toxic and weak, saying I wasn't man enough or strong enough to share Sharon with her friends. These words really made me feel uncomfortable and upset because they not only hurt me but also criticized my confidence and decisions in this relationship. The feeling of being unfairly criticized and blamed made me feel even lonelier in this relationship, as if I was fighting alone in what should have been a mutual support system. Each message, each criticism from them made me feel that Sharon had chosen to side with her friends instead of putting me first in our relationship. This made me question the entire relationship and wonder if I had overlooked signs from the beginning. Some of my friends, who had known Sharon for the past 2 years, couldn't believe how quickly she had changed. They were shocked and confused because throughout the time we had been together, Sharon had always been very reliable and steady in relationships. Her sudden change in behavior and attitude made them unable to understand the reason. Some of them even said that maybe there was something I hadn't shared, or maybe I had done something that caused Sharon's friends to react so strongly. This made me feel very awkward and question my relationship with Sharon. Had I done something wrong without realizing it, or were her actions a reaction to things that hadn't been said? My friends thought there might be some factor I hadn't shared or an event that caused Sharon's sudden change. However, I truly couldn't remember anything I had done that could lead to these changes. I also began to wonder if I had missed signs from the start and hadn't recognized the small changes in Sharon's behavior. This doubt not only confused me but also created a rift in the trust between Sharon and me. These questions made me have to reconsider the whole relationship and reflect on the factors that had changed everything. I don't know anymore, so many things are coming at me from every direction right now. Ending this relationship, I realized that sometimes we can't control or fully understand the changes in someone else's character and behavior. Sharon had changed too quickly and couldn't clearly explain why, and I didn't recognize these signs earlier. This made me understand that trust and respect are the most important elements in any relationship. When one party can no longer maintain these basic values, the relationship will struggle to develop healthily. The lesson I've learned from this experience is that clear and honest communication is crucial. Nothing can replace respect for each other's feelings and rights, and once that respect is broken, everything can change. Just like understanding yourself and the other person before making major decisions, we need to truly understand each other and be aligned in our values before making long-term commitments. In the end, I also learned that we shouldn't fear making decisions when necessary, because sometimes walking away from an incompatible relationship is the best way to protect yourself and your inner peace. In life, we always face relationships, and not all of them are easy. Sometimes, we have to face difficult situations and feelings of loss, but those challenges help us grow stronger. One important thing I want to share is never lose yourself in any relationship. Respect, honesty, and trust are not only important for building a sustainable relationship, but also the foundation for maintaining peace of mind. Don't fear change if it helps you grow and become a better person. Learn to let go of what no longer fits, have the courage to move forward, and always remember that every step, whether big or small, is part of the journey towards your own growth and happiness.